The perspective on policing held by our mayor, Andy Berke, is entirely 1940s, fully conventional, fully progressive. And that is not saying anything to his favor to say that it's progressive, because the progressive era, if you remember, began in the 1880s. And in that era rose the regulatory state, in effect, the police state. And there were wars, major wars, World War I and II and Korea, all of which established further and deepened the claim of the modern state upon the individual, upon the family, upon the city, the county, here, Hamilton County, and life in general. And the 1940s perspective is one of total government. It is the era, of course, of World War II, when there were people who had tax rates in the 120% range. These were $1 a year men, some of them, who worked for their companies for nothing, for $1 a year, or for the government, and faced tax bills in the arrival of the income tax in 1943, I think it was, withholding bills that exceeded their revenues, and so they had to sell shares and stock and so on to pay their tax bills. 100% or more was the rate that some of them paid, and yet, because we were in a war and because we were the great American empire, saving the world for democracy and destroying dictators, people just cooperated. They took part in the national religion, unlike they would today. Today, we have been enlightened by its many failings, and we have been enlightened by the mismanagement, if you will, or the management of the national economy and the national government by Barack Obama, under whose reign there has been continuing corrosion of liberties and increasing poverty among the people, a greater rise in the inequitable allocation of resources, if you will, more poor and fewer greater rich people, as we heard about from the Oxfam report yesterday that said the top eight wealthy people, one of whom, Bill Gates, has a fortune valued at $480 billion or so, they are worth more than half of the assets and income of the world, more than half the bottom part of the world. They are equal to it. And so that is the progressive era, and Andy Berke is part of that. He is part of the progressive view of the world in which we have the state as arbiter, as finder of fact and law, the state which is never wrong. It really can't be wrong because it is a god. And his view, Mayor Berke's view on policing, reflects this whole dynamic. If you want to read more about it, go to Nooganomics.com this morning, and I got off just a quick report about an exchange that the mayor had on Facebook with Larry Groghn. Both spoke at the real estate venue last week, may have been Thursday or so, and they made their pitches for votes. And part of the conflict that arose from that, you might say that the rhetoric that arose from that encounter was the comment by Larry Groghn that police are harassing gang members. Now, this point he elaborated on in some detail with me in an interview published at Chattanooga. You go to Chattanoogan.com, type in Groghn, Grohn, and read his detailed discussion with me. It was an hour's conversation, and so in that piece, I boiled down the highlights of the Larry Groghn argument and something of his character and something of his way of thinking and doing things. And so we talked about harassment of police, by police of gang members. And Larry's complaint is not that it's harassment, but that it is a kind of sniping of gang members by police officers that's not effectual. And his complaint is that, well, harassing a gang member for not having a turn indicator on, that's not really, that just is intimidating perhaps, but it doesn't really solve the problem of getting the gang member to go and get a job or start a business or go back into school. It's just harassing, and it doesn't lock him up either, right? It just gives him another detail he has to remember and write down in a calendar somewhere on a scrap of paper that I got to go to city court on this date to meet the officer on not using my indicator. That's harassment in Larry Grohn's analysis, and it's not really factual. And so the discussion that he had with me is on that point, and please do go to Chattanooga.com and read that. And here, though, Larry brought the point up again about harassment not being effective. And so Berke, Andy Berke, who is the traditional pro-police guy, right? Both Berke and Groghn are pro-police, okay? Don't think that Larry Groghn, just because he's a conservative, somehow means that he has insight into this particular continuing abuse of the state against the people. He doesn't have that perspective, and I don't think that there's any way he can get that except perhaps by rough experience that he hasn't had, or readings that he hasn't made time for and probably won't make time for. Andy Berke says, my opponent says our police officers harass gang members. This is on his Facebook page. That demonstrates that he is out of touch and has no idea what sacrifices our officers make every day to keep our streets safe. Now that is pure wonderful political malarkey, and it sounds just exactly what you would expect from a very smooth operator, Andy Berke. If you are in a gang and you commit a crime, you should go to jail. Period. I don't call that harassment. I call it the law. So there, he's mischaracterizing what Larry Groghn said. Larry Groghn didn't say that people who commit crimes shouldn't be tried and put in jail. He didn't say that, but he's complaining about these stoplight, rolling stop incidents where the officer who's closely monitoring with his surveillance technology the gang member in his old car, with the high struts, he arrests that man, and so he's showing him the law, right? Well, that's not fair to Larry Groghn. Period. Andy Berke says, I don't call this harassment. I call it the law. And he sounds like he's cloaking himself in the dignity of the law. Andy Berke is. Our officers put their lives on the line every day, he goes on. He's trying to draw us to him now, or he's trying to draw us to the idea that the police are about safety. They're not about safety, okay? They're about law enforcement. And peacekeeping and safety are incidental to that main calling. They enforce ordinance, and we are to understand they enforce statute. They enforce state statute. They keep us safe, and they need a mayor who has their back. Of course, that's Andy Berke. Andy Berke does have the back of the police, and you need to know that if you follow the work of me, your host here, David Tulis, you'll know that somebody has to have the back of the police because the citizens who are falsely arrested and accused by them are very bad. I mean, these are very bad people. Rochelle Gelpin, Hanson Melvin, people who have been abused by the police. And in cases that we have given in excruciating detail here, they're not very favorable of police. And so because there are people out there who have been victimized, falsely accused, shouted down, harassed, kidnapped effectively by the police department, the mayor wants to make sure that the officers who are involving themselves in these miscreancies have his favor. Over the next 4 years, I'll support our police department by putting more officers on the streets and equip them, he says, with the tools they need to keep us safe and get guns out of the hands of gang members. Well, it's such a mishmash. And the mayor, though, these are all things that you just say when you write the press release, right? You say these things and you put it all together and you sort of touch every little nerve and you smooth over every little rough spot with all the words that you're using, keeping us safe, right? Putting more officers on the street, support our police department, have their back. These are all phrases which a smart, media-savvy young writer on his staff, probably a young female, would really have available and produce. And there he has it in his presentation, and it's on his Facebook page. Well, if you're pro-police, can you be pro-black? And I say that is to provoke. I understand I'm being provocative there, but let's put it this way. If you are pro-police, can you be pro-citizen? That's the better way of putting it. Not just black, but citizen, because it's not just the black man, especially the young man, who's constantly stopped because he's black, right? That's the problem is that, and you can put a racial argument on there that Franklin McCauley would appreciate, and many ministers of the gospel in Chattanooga whose churches have in the pews abused men. But But there's more to it than that. It's not just a racial issue. The use of police by the city, by the executive branch, is effectively an attack, a continuing attack, 1940s style, against the people. And we say we're a free people. We say we have constitutionally guaranteed rights. We say we live in a free state. These are promises of the Tennessee Constitution, and they are the promises of the federal Constitution as well, in addition to pro-cop decisions such as Miranda, which allow policing to continue with court protection, but with the provision that people have to be read their rights. Miranda is just a kind of workaround as the high court started agreeing to accept policing as a constitutional function of the executive government. We have in our day much distress and much problem, and especially among the people who are the poorest. Now, why are poor people always the ones in court? Why, if you look at the checkout rack at the local stop and shoot when you get your Coke and fill up your gas tank, why is it that when you look at the jailed now newspapers there on the right side, that many of the people in there are the poorest of the kind, poorest people. They look haggard, and they are you might say the lower economic strata of Chattanooga and Hamilton County. You're not going to be there. You'll never be there. But why people like that, who are common, hardworking people, the ones who fill city court benches and sessions court benches, why are they the commonest of the common people and poor? And why are they disproportionately black? Well, it is a cultural phenomenon, and people who have a short-term perspective, who don't have a lot of means, who don't have a lot of family support, who don't have the sweetness of the gospel to encourage them, who are just sort of desperate. They have often their things out of order, right? They have tags out of order. They have licenses that have expired. They drive on revoked. They drive on suspendeds. They don't make court days. They don't pay their bonds. They don't pay their bail. They fail to meet the probation officer. They do not make their child support payments and end up in jail, and they can't get out. These are the people who are arrested, and they're often the poorest of the poor. The industrial judicial complex grinds upon the poor, and the state is so, well, when I see those legislators in Nashville gathering around the Bible and praying, as I saw on Facebook a couple of days ago, all I can do is just shake my head and say, these men many of them are practicing Christians. These men just don't see the effect of the state. They think their good things are passing down to the people for their benefit, and yet because they pass through the state itself, through state government, through executive government, they don't see the great evil here in the hinterlands, even the hinterlands of Chattanooga and Hamilton County. We are one of the major cities of our state, and here we see a depredation upon the people. Depredation simply means an eating away, a consumption of, a gnarling, a gnashing against, a strip mining of the people. The state of Tennessee and state governments around the country strip mine the people and operate their pseudo-judicial systems. There are systems which pretend to be about law and order, pretend to be about the rule of law, that they are about justice, and they're not. They're about grinding the poor. I've spent enough time in courts and as a reporter and as plaintiff to see how this works, and not perhaps as much as I deserve, but enough as journalist and writer here, and your host, David Tulis, to be able to make this assertion. The mayor of Chattanooga does not care about black people if he's pro-police. I say that observations, but I say it just to have it said, because there are reforms needed, and the mayor is not talking about reforms at all. Now, there are 4 words that I want to propose be essential for the saving of American lives. Do you remember that phrase from the Bourne movies? Jason Bourne was turned into a killing machine by the federal military establishment, a heartless, robotic, highly expensive killing machine and assassin. Why? To save American lives. That was a mantra of the movie, the movies, plural. And so if we are concerned about saving American lives as his masters were, what about saving American lives here in East Ridge, here in Chattanooga. Think about the East Ridge execution of a plumber by an officer, Daniel Stevenson. Daniel Stevenson executed a plumber, Todd Browning, and he was a man who had a pipe in his hand, a piece of plumbing equipment in his hand. And Mr. Stevenson, a city employee of the town of East Ridge, executed this man in a statutorily allowed extrajudicial summary capital punishment. That's what happened on the side of the street there in East Ridge. We have that in Chattanooga as well. We have armed confrontations among people who do not deserve the death penalty. Okay, they do not deserve capital punishment, and yet that's what police mete out summarily under the escalation of force theory. The 4 words which would save American lives, save Hamilton County lives, are time, de-escalation, cover, and distance. People laughed at me when I analyzed this execution of Todd Browning by Daniel Stevenson in East Ridge. They laughed at me. But that's why I said this man should never have lost his life. There should have been time, de-escalation, cover, and distance. Those 4 words are reform. They have to be taught to officers, I propose. Now, no mayoral candidate, even the most advanced among them, Dave Crockett, has really proposed this demilitarization, this de-law enforcement of police. I think that police departments should, especially when they encounter someone who is not acting rational, who has a mental problem, who is very angry, who is threatening, making threatening gestures, may have a club, a brick, a knife, a bat in his hand, a tool in his hand, threatening this person. Even if a man threatens a police officer, clearly he's not acting rationally. Clearly it's not rational. Jim Hammond defended Daniel Stevenson. Neil Pinkston defended Officer Daniel Stevenson. There is not going to be a criminal case. This is not a murder case. Okay, this is a lawfully allowed, statutorily allowed, extrajudicial summary execution of a citizen by a city employee. Where does city government ever get the authority to kill somebody like that? Where does that come from? Where is the statutory basis for that? I wonder. And I don't know that the question can be solved, but there needs to be, I propose, in the debate, a question that you ask. You, my listener, need to ask this question of these candidates. Start with Andy Berke. Go to Larry Groghn. Go to Dave Crockett. Ask them this question. Ask Chris Long, the number 4 candidate who's just building out his own views on policing. I don't think about it, but he's a candidate as well. There are 4 candidates, and the question is to be, what do you propose in the way of reform? Listen, Fred Fletcher's little program to have future students, his policing students, learn about minority communities, Black, Hispanic, gay, poor. This is not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about empathy, okay? We're not talking about the officers needing to spend time over beers with homosexuals. Okay, that's what Fred Fletcher proposes, is a way of connecting the officer to the citizen. That doesn't work like that. Okay, that's just a PR move, and while it may have some benefit for individual officers to meet homosexuals, meet Black people, or meet Hispanics, we don't have to have a program for that. What we have to have is a respect for life, by police officers of the citizenry that puts the citizen first. And that's very hard to do, because the training at the Chattanooga Police Academy, if it's typical of training around the company, is all about avoiding risk. It's all about one thing, that the officer comes home at night, that he makes it home that night. And so the hair trigger, the incredible, remarkable indignation that officers have, sufficient to kill people who don't respond properly, right? People who are irrational, people who are maybe deaf, people who are having an episode of some kind. We have so many people that are now victims of the drug industry who are hopped up. There are so many people who are drugged. It starts in public school. Half the public school population is drugged in Hamilton County. People are addicted when they get out, and they continue to have medication. The first rule of law enforcement is the overriding goal that every officer goes home at the end of the shift. Cops live in a hostile world, and they learn that every individual is potentially deadly, and complacency kills. That's the great thing that you're taught at the academy in Chattanooga. Complacency kills. That's why we have Javerio Eagle killings. That's why we have arrests of innocent people in their evening clothes, Rochelle Gelpin, and other stories. This is David Tulis. Andy Berke, 1940s progressive policing theory. Will he change it? This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
$25 goes by quickly these days, and 25 cents still just a quarter. 25 is the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates.
Hi, I'm Chip Chapman with this question. Are you concerned about getting a timely refund this year? There is a solution. Ask Schultz & Associates about Refund Advantage. It's a no-interest loan that allows you to get your tax refund quickly. But some tax refund product fees do apply, so make sure and understand the details. You can receive your refund quickly via check or prepaid credit card. Ask about Refund Advantage when you visit Schultz & Associates, 6310 Bonnie Oaks Drive, or call 899-1130. Schultz & Associates.
Baseball sluggers often wear the number 25, or 25 is a full MLB roster. Just happens 25 is also the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates, 899-1130.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Your marriage is over. You've been abandoned, betrayed. You're angry, shattered, and heartbroken. Don't go it alone. When you are facing divorce, you need an experienced advocate to help protect your rights in future. And you need it from a man with a sympathetic heart, but a hard nose. Attorney Clay Whitaker will fight for you in this most confusing and bitter time in your life. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400.
There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
Is your career careening, maybe sagging, wheezing? Let me suggest a job with huge income potential. Dealing with people. Call Steve Rajeda for a confidential interview. 855-8484. 855-8484. Maybe the most important call you make all year.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. A man in Walker County has been charged with the killing of his 4-month pregnant girlfriend, Candace Ann Hankins. They say she was killed inside of a house on Wheeler Road, and then her body was dragged out into the woods and stashed there. They say David Ryan Walker, the suspect in this case, then called family members to ask for help in disposing of the body. They refused and called the police, and Mr. Walker was arrested shortly afterward. An 18-year-old Hickson man has been arrested after police say he stole power tools from a work site and then tried to pawn them off at Cache America on Highway 153. He did successfully pawn them, but the owner of the power tools knew what the serial numbers were, so when police did an investigation, they found where they were pawned and who pawned them. Mr. Tyler Randolph Coyne has since been arrested and charged with theft over $1,000. An enraged, apparently intoxicated Alabama fan threatened to kill a clerk on East Brainerd Road at Mafco after he dropped his change. The Tide fan got very angry and was arrested. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Nooga Radio News.
Expect lots of clouds out there for your Tuesday. Very mild, but scattered showers and thunder showers will march in from the west, especially late, highs upper 60s. Tonight, rain and thunder showers will pass through, lows lower 50s. For Wednesday, a drier day, highs closer to 60, with rain returning by later Thursday. Hurry into JCPenney to save up to 30% off major appliances. Plus, get free delivery and basic installation on all major appliance purchases over $299. That's getting your pennies worth at JCPenney. And I'm Swarsheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Hundreds of people from Chattanooga will be streaming to Washington, if they're not leaving yet, for taking part in the inauguration of Donald Trump on Friday. Most, I think, will be taking part in a protest march on Saturday. It was just written up recently in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press by Emmett Gienap, the reporter. There's a photograph showing Lisa Bellino, Leanne Barron, and Colleen Coulton preparing signs in the public library to carry with them as they denounce the man chosen by the American people to lead the federal establishment, to be, if you will, the pin at the top of the basketball. That is effectively what Donald Trump will be. The establishment, the machinery of government, the nation state itself is the size of a basketball. And he, despite his tremendous personal strengths and tremendous personal influence and power of the executive branch, he is the size, if you will, of a grain of sand. Maybe a little bit more generous to him, a grain of sand and not a pinprick, a pinhead at the top of a basketball that kind of rolls where it wants. The basketball does roll where it wants, and no doubt Donald Trump has many things that he can do to direct the rolling either to the left a bit or to the right a bit, or maybe slow it down. But the ball is rolling toward the highway. It's going down a grassy, gentle slope, and I think Donald Trump realizes that if he can't get the ball to stop, that it will be crushed by semis, taxi cabs, pickup trucks, and other vehicles traveling in commerce on that highway. The Women's March in Washington is Saturday, and it will draw hundreds of thousands of people. Pro-life women's group is being prohibited from taking part in it. And Lisa Bellino is the other Saturday on the library fourth floor, working at tables cluttered with papers and markers. Women's rights, she says, are human rights. I have to be loud, she says. There's a lot of good people who are quietly being good, and we cannot quietly be good anymore. And Emmett quotes her as saying, I completely sheltered my children from the election. She says that everything the national conversations said about gender wage gap and how sexual harassment is handled in the workplace, because people, even the 2016 candidates, talk past each other without listening. We have to be able to talk, she says. We have to be able to disagree. We have to be able to experience life differently. And so this is your kind of traditional person involved in politics, and they are going by the hundreds from Chattanooga to take part in the doings in Washington. Many of them will be there to protest the outcome of the balloting. Now, unchanged in this perspective, whether you're for Trump or against Trump, is what a very noted writer, Carlton J.H. Hayes, writes about in a terrific analysis that came out first in 1926. It's a masterpiece called Nationalism as Religion. And it's like a piece called The State by Randolph Bourne, in which the main argument is war is the health of the state. Also came out about the same time. Just I think it was first appeared when Bourne was discovered dead from tuberculosis, I think, and this manuscript was found in the wastebasket, and it became the foundation of the very noted alternative news website antiwar.com, with a socialist orator. I mean, it's funny. He was a socialist, and yet he had the most pristine, the most highly beautiful analysis of the religion of state that you can read, even though he believed in redistributionism, and he believed in a very high place for the state. Whereas you, my listener, here at the David Tulis Show, have a view of the state increasingly lower. You're starting to see increasingly that the state has less and less authority, and in fact has less and less lawful authority as it continues to exercise against the marketplace, against technological innovations, and against, as the market works, against cartels and the very high barriers of privilege that we have. Privilege, because we have privilege today, we have the state that Mrs. Bellino and her colleagues are going to protest. And because we have privilege, we have the arrival of Donald Trump, the man of great privilege, who is the candidate that the establishment couldn't control. And that is why it is terrified of Donald Trump and dreads Donald Trump, and will be figuring out how to stop him. He is figuring out how to get around the establishment, the skimmers, the scammers, those who have their heady connection with the central bank and the high-flying major banks and major players in the credit fiat money economy. All those people who prosper from betting on the gyrations in value among paper currencies worldwide. We are on a total fiat money system here in 2017. And our Chattanooga friends are going up to protest the man, Donald Trump, the grain of sand on top of the basketball, as if somehow he is going to make things better or maybe make things worse as they see it. Carlton Hayes' essay is one that sometimes I think about, and I think about it every Tuesday when the dads at Trail Life USA, where my son is a member, and I'm a leader, I'm a dad leader. I go and I conveniently find something to do in my briefcase or check the men's room out or go to get a drink of water at the very beginning of the 7 p.m. Events, which start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I usually find a way to just excuse myself from that, not wanting to discourage any young soul who might see me standing there with my arms by my side and my lips unmoving as those few words of fealty are uttered. But Carlton Hayes, he talks about in his essay the religion of the state, and it is something that, though he's not, his essay doesn't come from a Christian perspective. It certainly accounts for it, and like Bourne, who was a good humanist, it sees the things that the Christian analysis, especially as offered by the reformed camp, which would go back to John Knox and the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell, and up through Robert E. Lee, and in our more recent time, R.J. Rushdoony, Dr. Rushdoony, the great theologian, probably the greatest theologian of the century, who rediscovered the law of God, who rediscovered how to make Christianity, how to instill back into Christianity the idea of Christendom, which is to say the kingdom of God among men, as opposed to the kingdom of God purely in Ethereum in the next life. Hayes says, for example, that the intellect constructs a speculative theology or mythology of nationalism. The imagination builds an unseen world around the eternal past and the everlasting future of one's nationality. The emotions feed the theological virtues of hope and faith and filial love. They arouse a joy and ecstasy in the contemplation of the national God, who is all good and all protecting, a longing for his favors, a thankfulness for his benefits, a fear of offending him, and feelings of awe and reverence at the immensity of his power and wisdom. They express themselves naturally in worship, both internal and external, both private and public. For nationalism, again, like any other religion, is to a large extent a social function. And, of course, its chief rites, as he says, are performed in the name of and the salvation of the whole community. And he says that nationalism first appeared among Christian peoples. To the modern national state, as to the medieval church, is attributable an ideal and a mission. What is the mission of the United States? It is the mission of salvation and the ideal of immortality. The nation is conceived of as eternal, and the deaths of her loyal sons do but add to her undying fame and glory. She protects her children and saves them from foreign devils. She assures them of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. She fosters for them the arts and the sciences. She gives them nourishment. Nor may the role of the modern national state, any more than that of the medieval church, be thought of as economic or mercenary. It is primarily spiritual, even otherworldly. And its driving force is its collective faith, a faith in its mission and destiny, a faith in things unseen, a faith that would move mountains. Nationalism is sentimental, emotional, and inspirational. And whether you're for Trump or whether you're against Trump or whether you're for Obama or whomever you're maybe for, as the man or the person at the national helm, you are drawn into this magnetism. It is a tremendous magnetism that I think only the most astute and the most earnest Christian can entirely avoid. Even ordinary Christians cannot avoid this draw, this magnetic claim of the modern state, the perfect and holy state that allows East Ridge city employees to summarily execute people who are having a temper tantrum. There are very definite and illuminating parallels, he says, between contemporary nationalism and medieval Christianity. Nowadays, the individual is born into the national state as formerly he was born into the church. And the secular registration of birth is the national rite of baptism. Thenceforth, with tender solicitude, he says, the state follows the individual through life, teaching him in patriotic schools the national catechism, showing him by pious precepts and solemn sacrament the beauties of national holiness, fitting him for a life of service, no matter how glorious or how menial to the state, the alpha and omega of his being, the author and finisher of his blessings, the commemorating his vital crises by formal registration with a fee, not only of his birth, but likewise of marriage, of the birth of his children, and of his death. If he's a crusader in behalf of nationalism, his place of entombment is marked forever with the ensign of his service. That's at the Chattanooga Military Park, right? The National Cemetery. And the funerals of national potentates and heroes are celebrated with patriotic pomp and circumstances that make the obsequies of medieval bishops seem drab. Membership in some modern national state is compulsory. The individual may withdraw from the earthly state militant only by death or emigration, and in the latter case, he finds it well nigh impossible to discover any land which does not possess some established form of the religion of nationalism. He may change his sect, so to speak, but not his religion. The individual, however skeptical he may be about his national faith, knows that compulsory membership in any national state involves compulsory financial support of its maintenance and missionary enterprise. For such a state is as insistent upon the collection of taxes as ever was the medieval church upon the levying of tithes. And then, of course, we have the flag. And so this is just a flavor of Carlton J.H. Hayes was a professor, and it came out in 1926. It's a masterpiece of cultural and social analysis of what is just ahead. A few days ahead, we have a coronation, if you will, as if he were a king. And yet there are all around us signs of the dissolution, the coming dissolution. Now, I'm not talking about the nearer one, but the progressing one today. And that is the rise of the distributed economy. Now, of the candidates, Dave Crockett alone, I think, understands the idea of the distributed economy. And that's why he is the leading candidate. He's not a doctrinaire traditional politician as Andy Berke is. Andy Berke fits into this analysis of the modern state, the worshipfulness of the modern state, because he is par excellence a former senator and mayor. He is a kind of high figure in traditional politics, of course, which is about benefits, giving benefits to people, you're taking their money by compulsion, you're taxing their houses and their livelihoods as privileges. You're creating the privileged society where the state or the municipal corporation shows its favor to certain ones, giving controls to certain high elites, and River City Company, for example, and then providing this service and this sense. It is a poetic sense of belonging. Now, it's not that I'm saying that about Andy Berke, not that I'm taking it away from Dave Crockett. Dave Crockett does the same thing. He is, after all, a former city council member 3 terms, former head of the Office of Sustainability in Chattanooga City government, I think up till about 2014. And he's trying to do the same thing, which, of course, I understand that. And there's no harm in creating the identification, the mythos, if you will, of Chattanooga. It is something that you really have to do. That's what I do. I mean, here I am as your host here, David Tulis. And I'm also about the same argument. I'm making an argument, and we call it Noogacentrism, we call it lococentrism. And it is the same thing. It is creating an identification with place and people, with place and people. So here, among the candidates, they want you to give something to them, and that is your favor in the vote. The coming decentralized economy is something I really would like to look at more. And we see examples of it already all around. And we see city council trying to grapple with it. For example, a few years ago, when the arrival of LED billboards came, the city council wisely said, we're not going to outlaw them. We're not going to outlaw the earlier version of the LED billboard, which was the pivot rotating three screened billboards. The ordinance was rewritten to account for them. Rather than saying these are not allowed, when these are not allowed, we're going to rewrite our ordinance to account for developments in technology. City council, for now, is not doing anything in the way of ordinance against Airbnb owners. These are people who are part of the Airbnb network, the Airbnb family, if you will, and they are in the sharing economy, and they let people who are visiting Chattanooga and Hamilton County to stay in a personal home. And Airbnb allows, it skims off some of the money that these homeowners get from visitors who stay in their houses, often while they're gone, and provides the service of uniting and curating those relationships. This is a picture, this Airbnb, the arrival of the sharing economy in temporary housing. Another good and important picture, dissolution of the old order. The old order is governmental, and if you talk with Dave Crockett, it's I'm trying to think with the name of the Maslow bell curve, I think it is. Regulation is over on the right side, and where the laggards are. The laggards, the late adopters are on the right side of this curve, and the curve shows the number of people involved in a particular shift of opinion or a particular arrival in the use of a technology. The ones on the right are the late arrivals, the reluctant arrivals, the reluctant users. The ones on the left are the innovators, the early adopters, and that's where he says he wants his campaign to be, on the left side of that curve. Of course, if you go to the top of the bell curve, that's where the majority is. They all watch. Everybody watches, and then suddenly they all adopt, and it's already half. The thing's not new anymore. But the common man, the commoner, adopts the program, whether it's the use of Airbnb or of ride sharing, Uber and its competitors, and so regulators are always on the right side. Innovators are on the left side, and Crockett defines himself as being on the left. He says, I always work in the left part of that bell curve with all of his programs and his environmental schemes and cost-saving, money-saving, good asset saving and goods-saving, recycling-oriented program and ideas. In a way, very pro-market ideas. So Berke would seem to be over on the right side. Groghn would seem to be more on the right side, and Crockett would seem to be over on the left side. The decentralizing economy promises many, many advantages. I'm David Tulis, your host. I'm the father of 4 children who, by and large, did not set foot in school, and yet they're very accomplished. One son is 22, I think he is. He has a job that pays double what I earned as an editor at the newspaper. He's flown around the country in jets, and his hotel is paid for. He provides consulting services for a big internet company, a big internet security company in Atlanta. And he's just a kid, 22 years old, and he's paid well. He has 5 weeks vacation. He's been there a year now after graduating from UTC, and has 5 weeks vacation. What does a young man do with time like that? I don't really know. But he's an example of what is possible now with decentralization, with the distributed economy, especially in education. How can public schools work? How can their premise stand any longer? How can they stand another year when we have YouTube, we have Khan Academy? And as I hope to tell you about, we have alternatives to YouTube that are free market oriented, because YouTube censors important things. Google censors important things under the vaguely defined terms of service. And there's an important roundup of some of these developments in the direction of decentralization from Jim Corbett at CorbettReport.com. This is David Tulis, and I'm very optimistic about the future. And it's not because Trump is taking office. Trump is going to do many good things to startle and start the establishment, but he is part of it still. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Step aside, sir. I'm searching your trunk.
Is that all serious? That doesn't even cover anything.
We trusted you. We gave you all that authority, all that discretion, and you do this to our little company? Don't you think that's wrong? That's called embezzlement.
I didn't mean to do it. It didn't go right. I shot him. There he was. And then it just happened.
My son, only 18, facing drug charges. Oh no.
We got one of those mortgage fraud creeps. Go!
Attorney Clay Whitaker, 756-6400, 756-6400. Free consultation in criminal cases. He'll get justice for you. 756-6400, 756-6400. Clay Whitaker.
What? Oh no, I can't believe my phone screen is cracked. I cracked it. I can't believe my screen is cracked. I need my phone.
Whoa. Slow down, wild man. We've got an easy solution. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Your cell phone repair doctor is on the job. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Check out our brand new location. Just off I-75, Old Lee Highway next to Zaxby's. That's right, your cell doctor in Ottawa, Cell Surgeon, most of the time can fix your smartphone on the spot. Your cell phone repair doctor is on the the job. Cell Surgeon in Ottawa. Check out our brand new location. Just off I-75, Old Lee Highway next to Zaxby's. Cell Surgeon for all your cell needs. Most repairs are performed in less than an hour. TheCellSurgeon.com. Go to TheCellSurgeon.com.
Daisy, get my cell phone out of your mouth right now.
McCune Williams and Ashley PLLC offers a full array of legal services to meet the needs of businesses and individuals. Our attorneys represent diverse backgrounds, interests, and legal emphasis, but we share one common goal: providing the highest quality legal services to our clients through the combination of our talents, experience, and expertise. In each case, we strive to tailor those services to meet each client's specific circumstances: business law, business organization, civil litigation, commercial litigation, conservatorship and guardian law, bankruptcy law, just to name a few. With over 188 years of combined experience, McCune Williams Ashley PLLC is here to help you and your business succeed. MWALawfirm.com. That's MWALawfirm.com. Call 423-756-6400. That's 423-756-6400. Choose Exit Realty Scenic City. Need to sell your house? Want to buy another house? Choose Exit Realty Scenic City. Our goals are simple. If you're selling, we get you the best price possible in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Our agents are professional, competent, and courteous. We stay in touch every step of the way. If you're buying, we make sure you get all the information necessary to choose the right house in the right location at the best price. Exit Realty is one of the fastest growing real estate companies in North America. Our agents have extensive training, state-of-the-art technology, and full support that allows us to do the best job possible for you. If you're in the market to buy or sell, call us today, 423-551-EXIT. That's 423-551-3948. If you're an agent or considering a career in real estate, call us today. See what Exit Realty can do for you. No desk fees, residual income, technology to the max, and people first. Call us today, 551-EXIT. That's 551-3948. We're located at 7610 Hamilton Park Drive, just off the Bonnie Oaks exit.
We're at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Yes, ma'am. 2 orders of nachos with beef and beans and 2 beers. Chattanooga loves its Amigos restaurants, but the Amigos in Hickson has something extra. NCAA, the week's big game. How about a house wine? Really good. Big name beers. Just tell Maria what you want. And here at Amigos, margaritas are popular. And it's only $3 a day. If you come here on a game day, Saturday, a Natty Light is only $2.25. Here at Amigos, just during NCAA, Natty Light, $2.25. Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson. The happy hour is 3 to 9 today and every day. I'd say the atmosphere is festive. Look at that huge TV. It's like being amid the fans under a bright sun, but without all the heat. Stay cool. Quench your thirst. Amigos, between the Staples and Hobby Lobby. Take the table next to mine and enjoy the great NCAA game with friend or family here at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Okay, it's starting. The NASCAR racer's ideal is quality and excellence. So is mine. Hi, David Tulis here. My pit crew is S&S Auto Repair. I've taken Toyotas and Hondas to S&S for 13 years, even though it's way out of my way. I like being treated fairly, like a neighbor. S&S specializes in Toyota and Lexus, Honda, Acura, Scion, Nissan, and Infiniti. Make an appointment today and get a free 4-inch combat knife as a gift. 855-3436. ssautorepair.net. 855-3436.
Hello. Charge! Get back there, you dang Yankee! Great horny toads, I'm up north. Gotta burn my boots. They touched Yankee soil. Lay down your arms and step forward.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. General Motors is releasing the details of a major investment in its U.S. manufacturing operations. CBS's Jeff Gilbert has the story from Detroit.
The GM investment means 1,500 new and retained manufacturing jobs. The company also plans to bring back 450 jobs from Mexico to build pickup truck axles in Michigan. GM also saying it'll add 5,000 salaried jobs over the next few years. GM says they can make these investments as the U.S. manufacturing base becomes more competitive. Jeff Gilbert, CBS News, Detroit.
Walmart plans to hire 10,000 new workers this year. CBS News business analyst Joe Schlesinger.
Of course, this is not a huge amount for Walmart. It's less than 1% of the company's current American workforce, but it certainly is good news when it comes to brick and mortar retailers.
In Washington, Senate Democratic leader Charles Schumer is calling for an ethics investigation of Republican Congressman Tom Price, nominated by President-elect Trump to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Questions have been raised about investments Price made in healthcare companies. CBS's Stephen Portnoy has the latest on another controversial cabinet nominee.
Hardee's and Carl's Jr. CEO Andy Puzder tweets he's looking forward to his confirmation hearing, which hasn't yet been scheduled. But sources within the Trump transition seem worried he's been less diligent than they'd hoped in his preparation. Unions have been particularly harsh in their scrutiny of the fast food executive, and there's concern Puzder's not taking the criticism well. Still, there's no indication he's about to withdraw.
The tone of Donald Trump's inaugural speech on Friday could surprise his critics. Close friend and inaugural committee chairman Tom Barrett gave CBS This Morning a sneak preview.
This is a president-elect who is just anxious to get back to work. And what you're going to hear in his inaugural address is a switch from candidate to president.
Almost 3 years after Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished over the Indian Ocean, the search for the plane and the 239 people who were on board has been suspended. CBS News correspondent Chris Van Cleve tells us the victims' families are bitterly disappointed.
Voice 370, a support group for next of kin, said in a statement, commercial planes cannot just be allowed to disappear without a trace. Stopping at this stage is nothing short of irresponsible.
Officials say they could resume the search if there's any indication of evidence of the wreckage. One of 5 people killed in Sunday's shooting spree at a resort south of Cancun, Mexico, was an American, 18-year-old Alexandra Villanueva. American tourist Valerie Lee survived the shooting and the stampede that followed.
We heard 4 to 5 very clear shots, and everyone kind of stopped and quickly processed what had just happened and started running.
The averages are lower across the board in early Wall Street trading. The Dow Industrials are down 58 points. This is CBS News.
And I'm Jerry Rice saying so long from San Francisco.
Thank goodness. Oh, these overtime games are just killing my back.
You should try the patch.
The patch?
The Tiger Balm patch. It's a blend of essential oils that goes deep into aching muscles and joints for fast, soothing pain relief. I go for Tiger Balm after every game.
What every armchair quarterback needs, proven pain relief.
And a good wide receiver.
You don't know any, do you?
Roar back from pain with Tiger Balm. It works where it hurts.
Getting a great night's sleep is easier and more affordable than you might think. You don't need a new expensive mattress or sleeping pills. You just need to change your sheets. Hi, I'm Scott Tannen, founder of Boll & Branch. What makes Boll & Branch sheets different is that they're meticulously crafted from pure 100% organic cotton. And because we only sell online, we've cut out all the expensive retail markups. Plus, if you go to bollandbranch.com today, we'll give you $50 off your first set of sheets when you use promo code SOFT. bollandbranch.com, spelled B-O-L-L and branch.com. Promo code SOFT.
Problem, solution, possibly. CBS News correspondent Jim Hannity has the story.
Is it the answer for lithium-ion battery fires? Those exploding Samsung smartphones put the spotlight on the potential fire hazard in lithium battery design, but Stanford University researchers have come up with a solution. It's a lithium-ion battery that incorporates a layer of flame-retardant fibers. The layer is placed between the battery's negative and positive electrodes. If the temperature in the battery exceeds 300 degrees Fahrenheit, the fire-retardant layer melts, putting out or preventing any fire. It's like having a built-in fire extinguisher. Jim Hannity, CBS News.
A report by the European Court of Auditors faults EU officials for not doing enough to reduce food waste. The EU has a population of 510 million. It wastes an estimated 88 million tons of food each year. The report says efforts to trim waste have to be made up and down the food chain from farm to fork. Frank said, CBS.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got lots of clouds out there for your Tuesday. Very mild, but scattered showers and thunder showers will march in from the west, especially late highs, upper 60s. Tonight, rain and thunder showers will pass through, lows lower 50s. For Wednesday, a drier day, highs closer to 60, with rain returning by later Thursday. Hurry into JCPenney to save up to 30% off major appliances. Plus, get free delivery and basic installation on all major appliance purchases over $299. That's getting your pennies worth at JCPenney. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney's walked him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Fox News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
We are live on Facebook at the Nooga Radio AM 1240 station, and also on YouTube, Nooga Radio, that's NOOGA, Nooga Radio. My name is David Tulis, and I'm the mild-mannered editor wearing a bow tie and very sensible shoes and a jacket, always dressing up to look nice for our daily encounter here on my program that starts at 9 o'clock. And I'm glad you're dropping in here to give me a couple of minutes of your time. Do make note of all of our sponsors. We are a commercial radio station, and so our bread comes from satisfying our clients. You, my listener, you're not really a client. You're just someone lending an ear for a minute, and so we don't really count you as part of it. But there are people who view you as a very important asset, potential asset, a potential customer. And those are our advertisers who count on us being the media to be the betweener between them and between you. You are the man who matters, and they know that. That's why they're here. They want you to say, "Hey, I need a lawyer, or I need to eat out. I need some accounting services, and I need my ducts cleaned." And so they have their names before you, so that you will contact those individual business owners and entrepreneurs and let them provide you that great service. So that's what we count on, that you patronize our advertisers. Just listen to our radio station. And what I suggest, since we are a talk station, that you listen and you make note of whom are those in the commercials. So my job really as owner of a radio station is to run the commercials, right? And the parts between, well, that's the fun part. I guess that's what we do here. We have the best programming to draw the listener here to this station. And that best programming, local programming, great national shows, great names, tremendous names here, only here. Everything here at this station is exclusive to you, right? You stay here, it's exclusive to you. And I am delighted that you're giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. The story about the coming crack up is one that I'm not letting go of just because Donald Trump was elected, right? Donald Trump is a terrific sign of good things for the future, though he is in many ways, he holds a high office. He uses executive power, and anybody who uses grand executive power on a grand scale, I view as kind of the enemy, right? So it's whether one votes for him or not, whether one likes Clinton or Trump more, whomever holds that office is a continuing threat, if you will, in a lot of ways, to the free market, to local economy, because the answers that he proposes are always national, right? It's always a national solution. Everybody's got to have insurance. We heard yesterday, everyone's going to have insurance. Well, what about the sharing economy in healthcare? What about that? There are solutions that are being tried, that are already functioning, that are already very serviceable, very amenable. I got in my briefcase 2 checks made out to David or Jeanette Tulis, and they are from Christian people from around the various parts of the country. They're trickling in, and they are payments for medical services that we paid for out of pocket here in Chattanooga after Jeanette broke her 2 fingers in a bike accident visiting relatives in Holland, in the Netherlands. So she came back with injuries, and we've had to great distress and trouble and expense to take care of her, and we're being compensated. We're being paid back by dozens of Christian families through Samaritan Ministries across the country. And that is a decentralized solution. People who are members, they're church folks who have commitments to God and worship and holy and clean living. They write checks to each other, and Samaritan is just the middleman making the arrangements and publishing the details. And we all voluntarily send a check to the party in need. I need to get my check out today to a family. It'll be to the amount of $460, I think, and some change. That's my total insurance bill for the month, if you will. Again, it's not insurance, but it is a sharing economy concept. And the sharing economy is blooming in many, many places. And these things bode ill for centralized systems such as nation states, such as national governments presided over by people such as Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a picture of this exciting trend. It is the trend of populism that the Davos crowd in Switzerland, in their important meetings covered by security guards left and right, they're written about speculatively by journalists from the outside. The internet press writing about them. Tyler Durden, for example, at Zero Hedge, and many others writing at Lou Rockwell. Some with firsthand information, some just writing at a distance about their plans on dealing with populism, which has taken Great Britain out of the European Union and put at the top of the heap in the American national political government, as opposed to the deep state government, Donald Trump, who terrifies these skimmers and scammers and those who, with their businesses built on credit, strip mine the people here in Hamilton County, strip mine the people in Chattanooga, slowly. Their central bank, the Federal Reserve System, doing the same thing, corroding the value of the paper dollar every day, just a little bit more for the benefit of the private owners of that lender. President Obama did not just promise hope and change. He was a legal eagle master of delivering the symbolic speech acts that progressives long to hear, says Charles U. Smith, because they confirmed the worldview of legalisms, rights, and other high points of mythology of political correctness. In other words, we don't actually have to threaten the status quo by changing anything. All we have to do is utter the correct phrase, and the erosion of civil liberties, opportunity, and wealth will all magically vanish in the warm, fuzzy phraseology of political correctness. Now, Trump is not politically correct, and we have that to be thankful for. No wonder, he says, Trump is like a fingernail on a chalkboard to progressives lulled into somnambulance by 8 years of symbolic speech acts. And that's why Trump's election caught them all by surprise. And Trump is the classic outsider. Franklin Roosevelt was the classic insider. Truman, the outsider. Kennedy, insider. Nixon, classic outsider. Bush and Gore, insiders. Jimmy Carter, outsiders. And Smith points out at of2minds.com, a very important website, by the way, that you should visit. It's called Of Two Minds, TWO, of2minds.com. Very, very heady and deep analysis, a lot of deep state coverage, and a free market analysis that beats very few writers of whom I know. He says the establishment's fear and loathing is laughably obvious. And why else drum up the absurd, hysterical narrative that Russia is responsible for Trump's election? The insiders unexpectedly lost. And Trump is, even though he believes he's authoritarian, you could even say he's fascistic, he means well. He's genuinely concerned. He's working without pay because he loves his country. And he's a mover and shaker. He gets things done. He cuts to the chase, and I hope that he's not easily persuaded by the establishment, which will, with its military parts, its policy parts, its spying parts, will all work to change his perspective. Because that's what happens when you get into office. Your perspective, in fact, changes. You become not the people's representatives to the state. You become the state's representative to the people, and your face is its face, and that's inevitably what happens. It happened with Chuck Fleischman. It happened with Bob Corker and Senator Lamar Alexander. The same has happened. They represent the state to us. They don't represent us to it at all. If you think that they do, then just continue voting and continue thinking that you have some say in how and how the country is run, you don't. Decentralization and the distributed economy are points that Dave Crockett, among the mayoral candidates, I think best understands. And there's a lot to hope for in the arrival of the breakup of these systems, whether it's in the taxi markets, the school markets, the hotel markets as well. Here in Chattanooga, these are all very strongly evident. And I think if there's a heavy hand in anything, it'll come from someone who's a progressive political figure, the Democrat lawyer incumbent Andy Berke. Andy Berke, who does not deal with people in the press who does not like. And I have the suspicion that I can't get a hold of anybody in his office or his campaign because somehow they don't like me. I sent an email off this morning following up an earlier one. Please contact me so that I can follow the mayor's doings during election time. Maybe show up at some of his events, maybe ask him some questions. And Tyler, the only name I have is Tyler, has not gotten back to me, and probably won't. He just can't get to it. And I don't know why. I'm entirely innocent of any wrongdoing to anybody, though the mayor knows that since I've defended marriage and he has defended queer theory, that he might have some fundamental disagreement with me there, and that's true. But I believe in fair play as a journalist, and I think that fair play is required by the gospel. The gospel requires fairness of each side. If you're reporting a dispute, you have to show each argument in its best light. And that's a legal principle. If you're writing a brief, you do that. You always show the other argument in its best light so that you might destroy it at its highest point. And so as writer, I will cover events as God gives me means. Fairly, quoting accurately, and not misrepresenting someone in presenting what he has to say. And I think that somehow the mayor and his staff and his campaign people think that I won't do that. But just because I editorialize and just because I analyze doesn't mean that I cannot be fair. Because after all, I want to be fair to any side in a dispute so that you, my listener, or the important man who matters, who's the reader of Nooganomics.com, will get the facts, right? We want him to have not just a persuasion about something, but an actual knowledge about something. And to have knowledge, you have to know what people say. If they're being quoted and their quotes are connected somehow to the facts of their efforts, then those quotes have to be rightly presented and not misconstrued just to get in some quick edgewise point, right? Well, Jim Corbett writes, CorbettReport.com, and Sam Spade here at our radio station wanted me to make note of his report that touches on three important areas of the marketplace that we haven't really looked at. One is the right to bear arms, and that is the 3D printed weapon. And Cody Wilson and his colleague Ben Dino back in 2012 founded Defense Distributed Incorporated. And it was a series of plans that would let a printer of plastic devices and plastic objects print a weapon. And the initial weapon was, I think, a one-use job, a very awkward-looking device. I think rather large object, not easily concealable. But the thing that is at issue are not physical objects, and they're not. It's not a physical object that has gotten the wrath of the federal State Department, but a visible object. And he points out what visible is. Visible is a plan. It is a system where if you download the system, you can tell a computer to create something. A 3D printer, you create, you establish, you make one copy of. It's like POD, printing on demand. You make a book with one push of the button. A system will create a single book, hardcover book, right? Everything's there. You don't have to have a mass run to produce a copy of the book with 5,000 other copies or 4,999 other copies, but one copy. And so that's what a visible, not physical, but visible, got it, object is. It's a blueprint. It's not an actual object that Cody Wilson was working on. It was a plan, and the State Department and its Office of Defense Trade Control stepped in a couple days later, back in 2012, and demanded that the plans be taken down. There was an appeal that Cody Wilson filed, an injunction imposed for this one-use pistol. The fact that national security might be permanently harmed while plaintiffs' appellants' constitutional rights might be temporarily harmed, according to the Fifth Circuit, strongly supports our conclusion that the district court did not abuse its discretion in weighing the balance in favor of national defense and national security. So you see, national security is fighting effectively a rearguard action against the marketplace. So the good news, Jim Corbett says, is that the era of visible guns is already here, and it has made the Second Amendment debate effectively moot. The bad news is that the era of visible guns is here and has made gun control into a First Amendment debate. So now the debate has shifted over what you can say, because software and plans are a form of speech. Do you have a right to speak out the plans for this one-shot white plastic handgun? Well, the trend is in the direction of 3D printing as these printers become less and less expensive. Eventually, there will be networks. A factory will not be a single centralized facility. It'll be a collection of potentially hundreds of factories in garages like yours. You can buy a printer. There'll be an investment business that says, okay, buy a computer, run the computer, keep it going, keep the dust off of it, keep its batteries charged, keep the plastic supplied, and meet orders from our customers. You become the producer. We are the middleman, and you just run this in your garage. Buy two at a discount. It's only $12,000 or something, some amount, right? You're an investor, and that's what you do. You build a factory in your garage. This is the future. How is that going to affect zoning regulations? Do you not think that zoning regulations where they exist will be challenged by this? Even though you have rules about place of business and so on, these are going to be slowly eroded, and enforcement will be minimal, and then finally it'll have to go away because it is impractical to try to enforce controls upon the private use of private property, though there is a commercial and business interest, a manufacturing interest even in it. Another development is the safe network. Now, we say the internet is decentralizing everything. I like to say that the internet is making everything worthless. And that's just because as a writer and a publisher, it seems to be impossible to gain traction on the internet. It seems to make everything worthless. On the other hand, it also is highly decentralized, but there is a kind of a problem. And that is that there are major choke points that run through servers. And the idea of servers and server farms providing and controlling the internet are kind of against the way the internet's designed. The internet is supposed to be designed in a distributed fashion. And the problem of it being centralized is visible when Corbett looks at, for example, YouTube and Google. There are controls placed upon actually that's with the use of BitChute. BitChute is a way of getting around the controls of YouTube. But with this, the safe network is something that lets users of the internet get around the central controls, and you have what he calls a crowdsourced internet. He says, along comes made safe with the safe networks. It's also called secure access for everyone. Safe describes itself as crowdsourced internet. Rather than using data centers and servers common within today's internet, which are prone to data theft and surveillance, the safe network uses advanced P2P technology, partner-to-partner technology, that joins together the spare computing capacity of all safe users, creating a global network. You can think of safe as crowdsourced internet. It is on this network that everyone's data and applications reside. Users decide if, when, and how that data is shared and accessed, or whether it is shared at all. The safe network will also contain programs, he says, and applications, meaning that users will be able to use the network for decentralized messaging, emailing, data storage, video conferencing, apps, and whatever else people use the controlled and surveyed ISP centralized internet for. So it's a way of getting away from surveillance. It's getting away from the centralizing aspects of the internet that allow for the control from outside. And then BitChute is the third sort of crowdsourcing way to get around the control that YouTube has put there's a website called Legal Insurrection that published material that was thought to be offensive. Antiwar.com, We Are Change. You remember, published photographs from Abu Ghraib, the Yankee prison in Iraq, where prisoners were sexually abused and beaten and tied up and electrocuted. These platforms lost control. They were also revenues obtained by websites by these gatekeepers. So even the internet, which is gatekeeper free, has gatekeepers, and the decentralization of technology is bringing together people who want to get around it, and so we have these are benefits, alternatives to centralized control. A number of YouTube alternatives have sprung up over the past decade, promising a free speech haven. Veracity Video, as he mentions, but invariably they have followed the YouTube format, host everything on centralized servers, and format all the videos from there. But BitChute is the alternative. BitChute uses web torrent technology and peer-to-peer decentralized users. That is how it works, and we are finding ways around blockades even within the exhilarating and freeing internet. This is David Tulis, and I do thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. Go to Nooganomics.com. Nooganomics.com. I asked about Andy Berke. Can he be pro-police, and pro-black? This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
$25 goes by quickly these days, and 25 cents still just a quarter. 25 is the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates. Hi, I'm Chip Chapman with this question. Are you concerned about getting a timely refund this year? There is a solution. Ask Schultz & Associates about Refund Advantage. It's a no-interest loan that allows you to get your tax refund quickly. But some tax refund product fees do apply, so make sure and understand the details. You can receive your refund quickly via check or prepaid credit card. Ask about Refund Advantage when you visit Schultz & Associates, 6310 Bonnie Oaks Drive, or call 899-1130. Schultz & Associates.
Baseball sluggers often wear the number 25, or 25 is a full MLB roster. Just happens 25 is also the years of experience Schultz & Associates puts behind filing your tax return quickly, correctly, and electronically. Schultz & Associates, 899-1130.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Your marriage is over. You've been abandoned, betrayed. You're angry, shattered, and heartbroken. Don't go it alone. When you are facing divorce, you need an experienced advocate to help protect your rights in future. And you need it from a man with a sympathetic heart, but a hard nose. Attorney Clay Whitaker will fight for you in this most confusing and bitter time in your life. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400.
There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
Is your career careening, maybe sagging, wheezing? Let me suggest a job with huge income potential. Dealing with people. Call Steve Rajeda for a confidential interview. 855-8484. 855-8484. Maybe the most important call you make all year.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. A man in Walker County has been charged with the killing of his 4-month pregnant girlfriend, Candace Ann Hankins. They say she was killed inside of a house on Wheeler Road, and then her body was dragged out into the woods and stashed there. They say David Ryan Walker, the suspect in this case, then called family members to ask for help in disposing of the body. They refused and called the police, and Mr. Walker was arrested shortly afterward. An 18-year-old Hickson man has been arrested after police say he stole power tools from a work site and then tried to pawn them off at Cash America on Highway 153. He did successfully pawn them, but the owner of the power tools knew what the serial numbers were, so when police did an investigation, they found where they were pawned and who pawned them. Mr. Tyler Randolph Coyne has since been arrested and charged with theft over $1,000. An enraged, apparently intoxicated Alabama fan threatened to kill a clerk on East Brainerd Road at Mafco after he dropped his change. The Tide fan got very angry and was arrested. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on. Nooga Radio News.
Expect lots of clouds out there for your Tuesday. Very mild, but scattered showers and thunder showers will march in from the west, especially late highs, upper 60s. Tonight, rain and thunder showers will pass through, lows lower 50s. For Wednesday, a drier day, highs closer to 60, with rain returning by later Thursday. Hurry into JCPenney to save up to 30% off major appliances. Plus, get free delivery and basic installation on all major appliance purchases over $299. That's getting your pennies worth at JCPenney. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We are live at Nooga Radio on YouTube and also on our Facebook page. We are on Facebook. This is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me just a minute of your time. I'm glad every day to chat with you, my listener. I'm here at 9, and I know you dip in when you can, and I'm sure glad that you've had occasion this morning to stop in on my program. If you want to think further with me about certain important matters that affect local economy and the free market, do go to Nooganomics. Nooganomics is the website for the man who matters. It's not a popular website. Okay, let's just say that I'm not writing for the masses. I don't have pretty girls there. I don't have I don't have clickbait. And often I will have a story that runs past a couple thousand words. Like I'm working on one right now about Dave Crockett that's probably going to run to 4,000. That's a long piece of writing, but it has in it what the best that I can give what he says. Okay, he says certain things in interviews with me, and I'm trying to boil down the best about what he has to say and give a perspective. In other words, ask the right questions. Ask the questions you ask. You, my listener, I think ask hard questions. And what I try to do as your representative, as your agent, if you will, is to ask them on your behalf. If I'm there, I'll say, but sir, That's the question that we need to throw out. Now there is in trade shop talk notes here one detail, and that is this: the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR, C-A-F-R, for Chattanooga City Government is just out. Daisy Madison, who runs the finance department, has just published it. Her clerk tells me that the printed edition, which is always beautifully done on very fine paper with tabbed entries, tabbed pages, is not yet ready. It's about 240 pages or so, and it is the thing for city government. So if you, my listener, are someone such as April Edson or a local watchdog group, be sure you go and ask for that, or go to the website of city government. Just do a search in Google for Chattanooga, C-A-F-R, C-A-F as in Frank, C-A-F-R. That means Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. You'll find it baffling, no doubt, but I think if you just give it some time and give, it's going to take me 4 or 5 hours just to get through the basics on that. And I'm thinking of my schedule. I'm a homeschool dad and also the editor of the homeschool newsletter. And this is production week at home, at the home office. So I'm trying to figure out how to allocate my time. I've got writing to do, kind of a daily schedule of writing to do. And every day when I get together with you, I produce a huge amount of material. Just think about it. If I'm going to chat with you, my listener, for 10 minutes, I have to prepare for that. I have to think about what I want to say. I have to think about what's true, right? What is the legal authority? Where is the money coming from in the story? And try to give to you, my listener, the very best analysis that we can. In addition to being the booster of Chattanooga, right? I am the man who says I'm the originator of the Nooga-centric argument. Nooga-centrism is our argument, and it is all about life. It is all about capital, and it is all about geocentrism. Geocentrism is the idea that somehow the part of the world in which we live, you and me, is the center. It is the center. And of course, God made us this way. God made us to be geocentric. God made us to live in a physical world that has, it's not just plains and there are mountains, there are rivers, there are intervening factors, there are hills that force people to go around them. Some hills, of course, are just demolished, and some hills are pierced by tunnels, but generally hills are barriers, and geography creates much more of a template of human action than we realize. And I think I'm reading Robert Kaplan and his book. I read a few pages last night before going to sleep. It's called The Revenge of Geography. And he is a globalist. He is a man who supported the Iraq wars, for example. And so he believes in federal hegemony over the world, and I don't. But still, he has valuable things to say. He's written several books on the American military and American imperialism. For example, one that I just finished reading is called Imperial Grunts, about Americans in military service around the world. We have wars going in 100 countries right now, thanks to President Obama, and continuing interventionism around the world, bringing against us hatred of untold levels. We dropped 20,000 bombs last year, more than half of them in Muslim countries. And I don't think any Muslims dropped any bombs on any part of the United States last year. And so we are hated around the world. And not that I don't celebrate that at all. I wish we weren't, but we are. And that is because we are, the country's military forces are subject to national war, the National War Party, that is to say the duopoly Republican Democrats and the neoconservatives, who believe in American exceptionalism by drone and exported inflation. And we are not well off for it. So my job here and at Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, is to put these things in perspective, right? You might say ignore the fabulous events in Washington sufficiently is to make you realize that they're, in a way, they're not really that important. And yet, of course, to give acknowledgement that Donald Trump won the election, that he is excitingly against the establishment, that he understands the tendrils, the threats of the so-called intelligence community and other organisms of the modern state, which are all about their own protection. They're all about their own survival, maybe in this day of Trump, their survival, their power over the world. They have power that's global in reach. They have unlimited resources virtually, thanks to fiat money and extra constitutional coin and currency and the whole credit sector, all working together to strip mine Chattanooga and Hamilton County of its livings and its free will, if you will. And I'm concerned about that and want to help you, my listener, position yourself to account for the coming disaster. We have a disaster ahead, and it is highly deserved. And I'm not talking about bombings by Muslims when they finally get their act together and start bombing places in this country. I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying we deserve that, but I'm talking about the day of reckoning in the financial world that we have largely created. When we went off the gold and silver standard, as did many other countries, we finally got off of it under Nixon. We injected our force through inflation worldwide, and the world's currencies are racing for the bottom right now. Racing to see who can devalue the most. Because if you devalue your currency more than the other guy, well, guess what? Your exports do well. And so the Swiss and the Euro people, they're trying to devalue without causing too much alarm, devalue at a steady pace, steady clip, so that no one will really notice how much inflation is built into the system and how much we're poorer for it. Your grandmom's treasury bills are worth very little, even though there is a payout from her having held them for all those years. There's a story at Breitbart I wanted to not overlook. It's mentioning an archbishop from Pompeii, Italy. His name is Carlo Liberati, and he's giving an interview to an Italian Catholic journal, La Fede Quotidiana, and he says, in 10 years, we will all be Muslims because of our stupidity. Italy and Europe live in a pagan and atheist way. They make laws that go against God, and they have traditions that are proper to paganism. All of this moral and religious decadence favors Islam. We have a weak Christian faith, he says. The church nowadays does not work well, and seminaries or empty parishes are the only thing still standing. We need a true Christian life. All this paves the way to Islam. In addition to this, they have children, and we do not. We are in full decline. We help without delay those coming from outside, and we forget many poor and old Italians who are eating from the trash. We need policies that take care of Italians first, our young people, and the unemployed. I'm a protester, says the Monsignor. If I were not a priest, I'd be out there demonstrating within the squares. What is the point of so many migrants that instead of thanking for the food we give them, they just throw it, spend hours with their cell phones, and even organize riots? The influx of foreigners is part of the decline of countries, and I'm thinking here about Sir John Glubb in his famous The Fate of Empires and Search for Survival essay of 1976, which I resort to sometimes just to get perspective. Perspective not just from God's Bible, which I read and I try to gain human perspective and godly perspective from that, but also sometimes there are human authors which give a real insight. And in this essay, he discusses Sir John Glubb, also called Pasha Glubb. He ran the Jordanian army for a couple of decades, starting in 1939, and published many books, 17 books or so, and chiefly on the Middle East. And he says that one of the often repeated phenomena of great empires is the influx of foreigners to the capital city. He talks about Rome, Baghdad, in London today, Cypriots, Greeks, Italians, Russians, Africans, Germans, and Indians jostle one another on the buses and in the underground, so that it sometimes seems difficult to find any British. The same applies to New York, perhaps even more so. This problem does not consist in any inferiority of one race as compared to another, but simply in the difference between, you should say, between them. In the age of the first outburst and the subsequent age of conquest, the race is normally ethically more or less homogeneous, right? At the rise of the empire, the race is usually homogeneous. This state of affairs facilitates a feeling of solidarity and comradeship, but in the ages of commerce and affluence, when decline sets in, as it has in our country, every type of foreigner floods into the great city, the streets of which are reputed to be paved with gold. As in most cases, this great city is also the capital of the empire. The cosmopolitan crowd at the seat of empire exercises a political influence greatly in excess of its relative numbers. Second or third generation foreign immigrants may appear outwardly to be entirely assimilated, but they often constitute a weakness in two directions. First, their basic human nature often differs from that of the original imperial stock. That would be people like me, right? I'm European, Anglo-Saxon, Swiss extract, immigrant extract, Irish background. First, their basic human nature often differs from that of the original imperial stock. If the earlier imperial races were stubborn and slow-moving, the immigrants might come from more emotional races, thereby introducing cracks and schisms into the national policies, even if all were equally loyal. Second, while the nation is still affluent, all the diverse races may appear equally loyal. But in an acute emergency, the immigrants will often be less willing to sacrifice their lives and their property than will be the original descendants of the founder race. Remarkably, in the South, we have a strong warrior class, and it is, according to Robert Kaplan, the South is the biggest part of the American military. Southern men are the most commonly found in the Marines, in all the services. Southerners, though they were humiliated by the Yankees, are the strongest component of the existing Yankee military force. Third, he says the immigrants are liable to form communities of their own, protecting primarily their own interests, and only in the second degree that of the nation as a whole. And fourth, many of the foreign immigrants will probably belong to races originally conquered by and absorbed into the empire, while the empire is enjoying its high noon of prosperity. All these people are proud and glad to be imperial citizens. But when decline sets in, it is extraordinary how the memory of ancient wars, perhaps centuries before, is suddenly revived. Think about the South and the war to prevent Southern independence. It still lives in the hearts of Southerners. And if you, my listener, are a Yankee, just moved here, you will be maybe even appalled at how strong this sense of anger is against Washington, where Donald Trump will be taking the leadership, taking the place of Abraham Lincoln on Friday. Someday, this phenomenon will doubtless appear in the now apparently monolithic and authoritarian Soviet empire. This was before the crack-up. It is amazing for how long such provincial sentiments can survive. And that is, I think it's important to note, and as far as local economy and free markets goes, I would say this. I would say that people who are immigrants in Chattanooga and Hamilton County are freer than you, my listener. You, my listener, have taken on, you have reduced your legal status dozens of times, probably a dozen times. And you are, in effect, an article in commerce, you're in effect a corporation, and you've taken on privileges and the like, and you are not a private person anymore. Immigrants, more likely from places such as Guatemala and Honduras and Mexico, they more likely are to be constitutionally protected because they haven't taken on these contracts of adhesion in which they enter into favor with the state to do something the state claims to us that we have to do. The state really can't make those claims. And so these pretenses of authority are ignored by many, many immigrants. Immigrants are often freer than black people. They are freer than white people. And they live in the world, you might say, of where people are individuals, they're human beings, whereas you and I, we live under commercial law, we live under admiralty law, we are involved in commerce, we are subject to statutory legislation, We are corporations, or we are subsumed by corporations and serve corporations, and we don't live in a personal world anymore. We live in a world where impersonalism and anomie, which is to say alienation, reign, not just in the outward forms of our lives, but in the inward parts of our beings. And immigrants just ignore all these things, and they live privately and often in the free market. They deal in cash. They realize that dealings with governments are almost always bad. They come from countries where corruption is endemic, and so they live freely. I think we should be very welcoming of immigrants, and we should go out of our way to protect them. And that is a biblical injunction, by the way, that the alien and the stranger receives fair treatment. He has to be rightly treated. He has to be paid promptly. Contracts with him have to be honored. His disability and language cannot be used against him. One cannot feign agreements and then cheat the immigrant. That brings judgment. That brings a judgment of God against the person who is doing it, and against any authority that would allow that to continue without redress. An immigrant, a stranger, has to be protected, and God requires a charitable interest of people here in Chattanooga, black and white, Oriental, people from India. There are thousands of people from India and Pakistan in the Chattanooga area. They are required to look upon the newcomers here, strangers, with favor. And we do that not because we have any particular opinion about immigration law or whether the government should allow Syrian refugees or not. These are all beside the point. If we know immigrants, we are to care for them and to look upon them with favor, even if they're Muslims, right? If they're Muslims, even more so. I think the idea of there being immigrants here, the Christians are not allowed access under Obama to immigrate to the United States, but Muslims are. Think about the claims of the gospel among Christians. If they can get to know Muslims from Syria, and by God's grace, these Muslims turn from their evil ideas and their idol and turn to the living God, well, they will have eternal life, and they'll have the blessings and fruit of the gospel and of free grace here today. There is a great war, as Samuel Huntington points out in his book, between Christianity and Islam. But in this country, Christianity has lost its sap, as the bishop points out, is true in Italy. It's true here as well. And we have certain errors in the direction of Arminianism in Christianity that allow Christianity to be supine, to be lying on a bed and not getting up. It is as if it were a sick man. It does not have the wherewithal to get up and engage and discuss and debate and to conquer. Christianity has in its thinking the idea of Christendom, which is to say every nation under God, every tongue under God, every state, every kingdom, every port town, every capital, every school, every university, every hospital, every space station under God, every school, every grade school, and every neighborhood under God, loving God, fearing God, daring not to offend him. That is what Christendom is about. And it is not just personal. Christianity is not just personal in this view. It is geopolitical. And it is all about capital and prosperity and progress. Pagan ideas of progress have all been borrowed from Christendom. But they don't have the means to bring things to completion. They do not have the fuel because they don't account for the sin problem. They don't have the fuel to bring about success. I think only the Christian theory does, and that includes welcoming the stranger, caring for the immigrant who finds himself here by God's providence.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Step aside, sir. I'm searching your trunk.